Nuel Folktales.
Once upon a time, there lived a young beautiful girl named Susan. She was a freshman in the University of Port Harcourt. Susan was that nerdy student with glasses that everybody looked up to when it came to difficult assignments and tests. Yes, she was a very brilliant girl. She was always the top student in class since she was in kindergarten. Susan was from a humble and quiet home. Her parents were civil servants. So when Susan gained admission into the University of Port Harcourt, she had just one mission in mind: study hard, be the best, and get a good job after graduation. Nothing more, nothing less. That was how she started. Everything was plain, black and white, simple and straightforward. Her daily routines were simple, from her hostel room off campus to her lecture theatre and back to the hostel, and everything was going as planned until Prince, the richest and most handsome student in the entire department, no, in the entire school, set his gaze upon Susan. Prince was that kind of boy mothers always warned their daughters about. He was devilishly handsome and charming and had all the girls drooling over him. And to ice the cake, he was from a rich home. His father was a wealthy businessman with plenty connections. Prince chased Susan relentlessly for months. He promised her heaven on earth. But Susan knew better not to get close to him as he was trouble. Prince, why me? You have other beautiful girls drooling over you. Well, pick a girl like me, Susan asked Prince one day in class. I don't want other girls. It is you I want. I want a brilliant woman to be the mother of my children, not some dumb slave queen with empty brains, he replied. But you have a girlfriend. I mean, girlfriends. Please leave me alone for my father, oh. Susan said. I can't leave you alone, no. I will follow you everywhere until you accept me, he said in a way that made Susan's heart flutter. But Susan rejected him still. And Prince? He was a playboy who loved the chase. He didn't stop. He intensified his efforts to get Susan. He followed her everywhere, to church, to night class, to the library, just to convince Susan that he was serious. He bought her lunch every day and gave her thoughtful gifts. He called her every morning and night, and before you know it, Susan started falling for Prince. She completely brought down her walls for him. She thought he loved her and that he was serious about her. A few days later, Susan accepted Prince as her boyfriend. That was where the chaos in Susan's life started. For the next couple of days, Prince made Susan feel like she was the only girl in the world. He lavished her with expensive gifts and showed her off to his close friends. Susan thought she was the last bus stop. But was it really so? One thing led to another, and Susan found herself in a hotel room with Prince, where she willingly gave him her innocence, all in the name of love. Unbeknownst to her that Prince made a bet with his friends to get the most brilliant student in the department to fall for him and sleep with him. And that brilliant student was none other than Susan. After their encounter in the hotel, Prince revealed his true color. The calls became less frequent. Same with the messages. Susan became worried and she tried to reach out to him, but every time Prince would give excuses. Who could blame him? He was done with her. Now it's time to move on to the next target. Days turned into weeks and Susan still couldn't understand, while Prince suddenly started behaving strange. One afternoon, she confided in her closest friend Iberi. Babe, I don't understand Prince anymore. He has changed completely. He no longer calls or texts me as he used to. To even pick my calls or reply my chat is a big problem. I'm really worried, Susan said. Relax, Susan. Maybe he is preoccupied. Just give him some space. I'm sure he would come around, Iberi advised. For the next couple of days, Susan took her friend's word seriously. She gave Prince some space. thinking he would come back around, but he never did. Instead, he shifted his attention to his next babe, Ebere, Susan's best friend. And that was how Ebere and Prince started dating behind Susan's back, while Susan was still wishing and hoping he would come back and they would go back to the good old days. One day, Susan walked into the lecture hall and the first thing she saw was Prince, a supposed boyfriend, and Ebere, her closest friend, sitting together in class, laughing and playing without a care in the world. Susan couldn't believe her eyes. She wanted to walk up to them to ask what was going on, but the lecturer suddenly entered the class to begin his lectures. All through the lecture period, Susan couldn't take her eyes off Prince and Ebere. She needed an explanation from both of them. She couldn't concentrate in class the whole day. Maybe they are just gisting. Because Prince is my boyfriend doesn't mean he shouldn't talk to other girls, right? It can't be what I'm thinking. There must be an explanation, I'm sure, she thought to herself, as her heart was torn into pieces as she stared at them, playing and gisting like lovers. That evening, Susan called her friend Ebere and asked why she was suddenly close to her boyfriend Prince. But Ebere said they were just talking about a movie they had watched before. Ebere swore that there was nothing going on between her and Prince, and Susan believed her. But for the next couple of days, Prince and Ebere became inseparable. They went everywhere together, and Ebere started spending lesser time at the hostel. Something was definitely going on, Susan thought. One day, Susan summoned all the courage in her and confronted the duo in class, where they were playing and laughing. Prince, I've been trying to give you some space, thinking you would talk to me and tell me what the problem is. But it seems you have pitched your tent with my best friend. What is going on really? Susan asked. But Prince just ignored her without saying a word, not even acknowledging her presence, and that crushed Susan. Ebere, you are my friend. You told me to give him space. How come you have now taken over my man behind my back? Susan said, directing her gaze to Ebere, as tears welled up in her eyes. Babe, relax. It's not that deep. The guy is clearly not into you anymore. Move on with your life. Abi na only you want date rich man pikin. Ebere said with irritation. Eh? Ebere, what did you just say? Babe, move on. It's my turn. Allow me to enjoy my turn with Prince, Ebere said. Susan saw red. Prince betrayed her and dumped her without any closure. And now her friend, that she trusted so much, is dating the said Prince, and she's saying it's not that deep? Susan was heartbroken and she couldn't control her tears. Prince, you are wicked. How can you do this to me? You promised heaven and earth. How can you be so heartless? You had to go after my best friend? Susan said, pointing her finger at Prince. Enough, Susan. Is it because I have been keeping quiet? Who are you, Seth? Who do you think you are? I just say let me just test you small, and you felt like a fool. Oh, you think I would settle for someone like you? Never. You were just a bet with my friends that I won. Please stop disturbing me. I'm not the first person to break up with a girl. The entire class gasped at Prince's revelation, but Susan's world was shattered by those words. She wished the ground would open up and swallow her up as she noticed the stares from her classmates, the murmurs, the mockery. Susan ran out of class that day in shame. That evening, when Ebere returned back to the hostel, Susan confronted her with anger and fury. I thought you were my friend, you backstabbing witch. You are wicked and I hope you drop dead, Susan yelled. It is your generation that will drop dead. The boy doesn't want you anymore. Why are you disturbing us? Ebere retorted. A fact that angered Susan even more. Before you know it, the two ladies started a heated argument. The other occupants of the house had to come out to hold them back from killing themselves over a man. You, Ebere, I would kill you in this school. Just watch and see. I will destroy you for what you have done to me, Susan threatened. Susanna, you can't do more than a dead rat, Ebere clapped back. That night, Ebere left the hostel for Susan as they both could not tolerate each other. The next day, Susan went to class as usual, but as she entered the classroom, everybody's eyes were on her. Some were laughing at her, others gave her a look of sympathy. Susan was mortified with shame. If only she had avoided Prince, she thought with sadness and pain in her heart. But just as she was about to take her seat, she saw Ebere and Prince staring at her with mockery on their faces. Susan lost it again. Seated close to her were the two people who had caused her so much pain and shame. Without thinking, Susan walked up to Prince and gave him a dirty slap. Prince was shocked. Me? You slapped me? He quickly got up to return the slap, but he was held back by his friends. Guy, calm down. Just ignore her. She's bitter that you dumped her, they sneered. Susan, you are lucky we are in class. Else I would have dealt with you mercilessly. Ogbeni, vanish from my front, Joe. Is it by force to date you? Prince backed at Susan. His words cut Susan like a knife, and in the heat of the moment she said, I will kill you, Prince. I will destroy you. You and Ebere, you will regret your life, she said, and the whole class heard her threats. A few days later, Susan woke up from her bed like any other day. Her anger towards Prince and Ebere had subsided. That day, she made up her mind to move on for good and delete both of them from her heart. But she didn't know that her troubles were just beginning. Susan came out of her room to the large sitting room they all shared in the flat, and the sight she saw knocked breath out of her. It was Prince laying on the floor in the pool of his blood, lifeless. Susan let out a loud scream that attracted other neighbors in the compound, and they rushed into the living room and met Prince, Susan's ex-boyfriend, laying on the floor in Susan's hostel living room, lifeless. What happens now? Who killed Prince? Was it Susan who threatened to end him days ago? What is Susan's fate now? Let's find out. In a few hours, the police came to the crime scene to investigate, and it was a clear case of murder, and the prime suspect was none other than Susan. Susan was arrested and taken into custody by the police. In just a few hours, the news of Prince's death reached the ears of his wealthy parents, and they were mad with grief. Their only son was gone just like that. They were out for blood. The policemen did some investigations, and it was discovered that Susan had threatened to end Prince a few days ago because he dumped her. There were witnesses who could attest to that, and before you know it, Susan landed in Kirikiri prison, where she was left to cool off for the rest of her life without any trial. Prince's parents used their connection to make sure Susan never saw the light of day. In a few days, Susan made headline on TV, newspaper, radio stations, and all social media platforms as the university student who ended her boyfriend's life because he dumped her for another girl. Her face plastered on the covers of blogs, her reputation tarnished for life, her future gone in a twinkle of an eye. When Susan's parents heard what happened, fear gripped them. They tried to fight the case in court, but Prince's parents were richer and they could make anybody disappear without blinking. Susan's parents knew their daughter was innocent. She could never hurt a fly, but who would believe them? There was no evidence. A few weeks passed and the topic was still trending online, and it caught the attention of a man named Patrick Oko. Mr. Oko was a big-time lawyer who owned an NGO that helped innocent people who were wrongly accused of crimes they did not commit get justice. Mr. Oko reached out to Susan's parents and started investigating the case. He was surprised that the case was never taken to court. There was no trial, no forensic report, nothing. The prime suspect was just tossed right into prison without proper investigation. Mr. Oko became more invested in the case and he was determined to see it to the end. Mr. Oko hired private investigators to gather evidence. I know you might be wondering what really happened to Prince. Well, the person that committed the crime was Ebere, Susan's friend. On the day of the incidents, Ebere came to the hostel with Prince to get some of her clothes and lecture notes. By that time, Susan was already fast asleep in her room. That night, Ebere and Prince were drunk and high, and one thing led to another. They started arguing in a large hostel living room. That night, Prince slapped Ebere in anger, and Ebere retaliated and pushed Prince in self-defense. But Prince lost his footing and hit his head against a wooden stool. That was how he gave up the ghost. When Ebere saw that he had collapsed, she tried to wake him up, but it was too late. She panicked and dashed out of the hostel, leaving the mess she created behind. Weeks passed, and after Mr. Oko had gathered enough evidence, he took the matter to court. Prince's parents were not happy, but they had no choice but to go to court because Mr. Oko was not a small boy himself. On the day of the court hearing, Mr. Oko was the defense attorney. He took on the case by himself. That day, he presented all the evidence he had gathered from the school, from the hostel, and from the eyewitnesses. Barrister Oko asked the judge for permission for autopsy to be done on Prince's body to ascertain the cause of death, and the judge granted permission for the body of the deceased to be examined. Prince's parents were against it, but Barrister Oko beat their expensive lawyers hands down, and that was how the examination was carried out on the body. And the forensic team found DNA samples that didn't belong to Susan. Upon further investigation, they found out that it belonged to Ebere, Susan's friends. And eyewitnesses saw Prince and Susan together at the club having fun, and the gatesman of their hostel also saw Ebere entering the hostel room with Prince and rushing out without him. Ebere was apprehended, and upon intense interrogations, she broke down in tears and confessed to her crimes and claimed that it was for self-defense. Susan was cleared of all charges and acquitted. Her innocence was proven thanks to Barrister Oko, and Ebere was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment. When Susan returned to her parents' house, she cried bitterly. She reflected on her time in prison, and one hard lesson she learned was that no man was worth going to jail for. In a fit of rage, she almost lost everything. Her reputation tarnished beyond redemption. Her name soiled forever. She regretted ever getting herself mixed up with the likes of Prince when she knew he was trouble. She regretted ever threatening someone's life in public. But above all, she was grateful to God for sending Barrister Oko to rescue her. If not, she would have rot in prison for the rest of her life for a crime she knew nothing about. That day, Barrister Oko advised her, "Susan, I'm happy you got justice, but I must inform you, you are now an ex-convict. Whether you like it or not, life will be tough on you sometimes because of that. You will miss opportunities. You will be rejected, but you must hold your head up high and be strong. This is a second chance for you. Never threaten anybody no matter the provocation, as you can never tell when trouble comes knocking. Face your studies and prioritize what's more important in your life," Barrister Oko advised. "Thank you, sir. You are an angel sent from above to save me," Susan said. "I'm glad you are okay now. Here's my business card. Call me if you need anything or you encounter any problem at all," Barrister Oko said, smiling. Few weeks later, Susan resumed school. People stared at her, some murmuring, some staring at her with sympathies, others with an expression that she couldn't understand. But Susan ignored their stares. She was ready to make the most of her second chance. She knew she would always be stigmatized as the girl who killed her boyfriend because he dumped her for another girl. But she didn't care. She held her head up high as Barrister Oko had advised. She was not a murderer. She was a victim, a survivor. Thank you for watching. Hi lovelies, long time no see. Have you ever heard or seen any case of someone who got arrested and convicted because of what they said or how they threatened someone in public? How did they resolve that issue? Were they thrown into prison or were they released to go back home? Let me know in the comment section below. The moral of this lesson is that sometimes no matter the provocation, silence is always the best answer. It might be painful, it might hurt you so badly, but sometimes it's best to walk away. Susan could have prevented a lot if she had just walked away. What do you think? Let me know about your thoughts in the comment section below. And let me know where you are watching this video from in the comment section below. Give this video a thumbs up if you haven't done so by now. Subscribe to our channel. And until I bring another juicy and interesting story your way again, bye for now.